everyone. So before I begin with the actual, what this video is about, I'd just like to point out that my earrings kind of look like open books. Just a little bit. And there's a reason I chose open books, because I'm actually going to be reviewing Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. We got books on the cover, it's a book about books, I got open books, kind of, on my earrings. It's just books everywhere, and I love it. Another very popular book on BookTube, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, came pretty highly recommended from a lot of people. This cover also, as I later discovered thanks to Ariel Bissett and a few other people that commented on my videos, this glows in the dark. And I tested it. I stuck it under the lamp, like for maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, turned off the lights, and it glowed, and it was awesome. But on to the actual content of the story. So this book is about Clay. He is living in San Francisco. It's the recession. He is a graduate out of work, basically. He used to work at a bagel company doing their sort of design stuff, and then lost his job because they couldn't afford to pay him anymore. And so he's sort of chilling, looking for a place to work, and ends up applying at a bookstore, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, and he gets put on the late night shift. Mr. Penumbra seems kind of like an odd guy. It's a little odd for a bookstore to be open 24 hours, and there's also very little actual books that we, as the common public, would think of buying. There's something called the way back section. That's how he refers to it in the book from Clay's point of view, where there's some weird stuff going on, and he's not quite sure how to approach it. Not many actual clients come in on a, overnight shift at a bookstore, but there are a couple interesting individuals that come looking for very particular books that are always in the way back section. And so eventually it becomes Clay trying to figure out what is going on in this bookstore. Who are these people? What are they trying to solve? He befriends a girl named Kat who works at Google, and he also has resources with his friends from school who he enlists to help solve this mystery. When I picked up this book, I thought it was going in one direction with about the bookstore and just the books themselves, but it kind of gets bigger than that. You realize that there's more than just Mr. Penumbra's bookstore. There's a lot of other things. It just grows. It grows beyond what you thought. With that comes the growth of the technology that they use to try and figure out what is going on. There's a lot of talk about digitizing books, putting them on the internet so everybody can access them. Obviously, some people are for that, some people are against it, but Kat uses her connections at Google to sort of launch this into another level, and that's where I started to get uncomfortable with where this book was going. I thought it honestly became too unrealistic. First of all, some of the things were hard to follow. Okay, yes, I'll admit that I sometimes read a little quickly, but I would be reading stuff and there was many times in this book where I was like, wait a minute, what just happened? And I'd have to backtrack, read it again, and I still wouldn't understand how something was happening. There was just some disconnect between trying to explain the story and me as the reader understanding it. Additionally, the technology just seemed too convenient. Like I said, it grew on a whole other scale, and it just, for some book that I read is taking place in present day. They talk about the Great Recession. That's what we call the period we are currently recovering from / almost recovered from. The technology seemed like it was 10, 15 years too advanced for the story to make sense. What they're trying to do with the books, and it just didn't work for me. I didn't like it. I like books that are relatively logical. If I had entered this book thinking it was a little bit fantastical, sort of out there, maybe I would have come to accept it a little bit more, but because I went in thinking this was like a real life, this could happen to me any old day kind of thing with that little bit of fantastical element, like, ooh, the mystery of the bookstore, what's cool about the bookstore, it didn't work for me. However, that being said, the characters were very well written. The morals of the story were good, the general purpose of what was being said. I just wasn't feeling it. It just didn't work for me. And it makes me a little sad because I know a lot of people enjoyed it. But I also feel like maybe a couple other people will come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I didn't really enjoy this either, here's why. That being the case, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. A solid story, good characters, but the technology and sort of where the story went just didn't work for me, too unrealistic in the end. I will still recommend this to people as long as they go into it knowing that there's sort of a semi-fantastical bit to it, and it might not be exactly what you come to expect based off of the cover and reading the synopsis on the back of the book. For those of you that have read Mr. Penumbra's, let me know what you thought. I'd like to hear from people who maybe didn't enjoy the story as much as everybody else seems to, because I'm kind of wondering why other people didn't like it, if it was the same reason that I wasn't really feeling it. You know, if you enjoyed it, feel free to tell me that you loved it below too. I mean, you gotta share the enthusiasm. There are different sides to every story. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo, Book Depository, Twitter, Goodreads, etc. You can find it all down there. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.